Before I get started, I'd like to introduce everybody. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Chris.
Teresa.
Lloyd.
Marissa.
Miguel. Alright, today my speech is inflation at its finest. After listening to my speech, my audience will understand the concept of inflation and its consequences. Every year the cost of living increases. This not only includes housing costs, but the cost of everything from basic necessities such as food, water, and electricity to gasoline and insurance. The problem is only getting worse for the United States and her citizens. This is no local issue, and it is a nationwide problem that affects everyone regardless of social status or cause. While the factors that influence this problem are both numerous and diverse, there is, however, another name used to describe what all these factors have in common, that is inflation. Today I will present you with some information that I've collected from numerous sources and articles. These include the Peter G. Foundation, the Express from Lockhaven.com, the White House, CNN Business, EnergyGov, and NerdWallet. Inflation is well recognized today as one of the greatest threats to the United States. The increased cost of living is destroying the United States and her people, from wages not matching the rate at which prices are increasing to the cost of fuel to even get to work. Today I will explain the concept of inflation, its consequences, and then I will just demonstrate how this affects everyone. We need to begin by first learning exactly what inflation is and how it has occurred in the past. Put simply, inflation is the rate at which prices for goods and services increase across an economy. Deflation, on the other hand, refers to the general decline of such prices. While some inflation is healthy, such as about 2% annually, a rapid growth or decline in prices can have negative effects on the economy. This means that your spending dollar loses its power, meaning that what you used to be able to buy for $1, you now have to spend more to get, such as toilet paper and basic necessities. You could buy shampoo for $1, now you have to buy it for $1.50. Over the course of history in the United States, there have been numerous periods with high levels of inflation, especially throughout the past several decades, such as the Vietnam War in the 1960s, when low unemployment and strong economic growth increased wages inevitably caused some increase in prices. Another example seen not long after inflation caused by the Vietnam War was during the 1970s, where high oil prices sparked expectations that other prices would also rise. Those high levels of inflation were brought down in the 1980s. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Despite decreasing inflation, it was extremely damaging to the economy. In fact, it left it too weak and too unstable to support the nation. As a result of decreasing this inflation, what soon followed were higher levels of employment and two separate recessions in the early 1980s. A rather recent example that we're all very aware of and quite familiar with was in 2022, following the COVID-19 pandemic, when inflation in the United States surged, reaching a 40-year high due to high consumer demand, supply chain issues, government spending, and the war in Ukraine. Now that you're aware of the basic understanding of inflation, let's take a look at some of the different types and what causes them. There are several different types, and each have their own causes. Just as there are several different types of inflation, there are several different factors that can cause each type. Example is when the supply of money increases relative to the size of an economy, whether due to a surge in government spending or to a central bank printing too much money. Prices can rise. Similar events such as natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes, or even man-made events such as war, that raise production costs or halt the production of goods, which can also increase prices. Both these scenarios are examples of demand pull inflation, a type of inflation that occurs when there is too much money relative to the economy's ability to produce goods and services. Inflation can also occur when the price of good inputs and services rise, known as cost push inflation. As the cost of resources used to create products increases, basically the cost of what is used to make products increases, that in turn causes them to increase the price of the final product. This what happens just like it costs more now to make a penny than a penny is worth. Same concept. In fact, the cost of fuel for vehicles has skyrocketed in recent years, according to the economy, to energy.gov, Average gasoline price in 2018 was $2.74, compared to a claim by NerdWallet. The average regular price of gas in the United States as of October 23rd this year is $3.54 per gallon. Now that you're aware of the concept of inflation and see its causes, you may be wondering how this impacts you and everybody else. Inflation has made the issue of increasing living costs worse for everyone, as it spares no one. The Express stated, inflation has also played a significant role in the rising cost of living. In July of 2023, consumer prices were 3.2 higher than the year before. Everyday Americans face the issue of increased cost of living even before they leave their homes, according to the Express. As the cost of living continues to rise in America, many families are struggling to make ends meet. Inflation and wage stagnation have made it increasingly difficult for everyday Americans to keep up with the rising cost of necessities such as housing, gas, healthcare, and food. What had once cost just a small portion of one's income has now grown into a devastating majority or even the entirety of one's paycheck. This has left many turning to their pockets inside out to even just split the bill with little to nothing to spare. The American people are living in fear due to the lack of affordable housing and healthcare. The White House provided additional statistics. Further, in a 2019 Pew survey found that 35% of middle-income class families frequently worry about paying their bills. Similarly, a 37% worry about the cost of healthcare for themselves and their families. The evidence is clear that the American people are struggling to cope with the cost of living. Today, we have discussed what the problem of inflation is, the different types of inflation and their causes, and we have discussed how it affects the United States and her citizens. In the end, living in today's world, facing the struggles of increased prices and declining wages, it has left many wonder whether or not they will make it. The greatest threat to America's future is not from beyond her borders, but rather right on her porch, in her cities, in her streets, and in her homes. The United States faces no greater issue today than the increasing cost of living due to inflation.